आज तो इत्काफ शुरू हो गया माशाल्लाह मुतकिफीन की रौनक।
Huzur is saying that itikaf has started in the mosque and the mutafaqeen have collected in the mosque.
आऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। वलम्मा अस्वाबतकुम मुसीबतुम क़द असबतुम मिस्लहा क़ुल्तुम अन्ना हाज़ा क़ुल हुवा मिन इंदि अनफुसिकुम इन्नल्लाहा अला कुल्लि शैइन क़दीर। वमा अस्वाबकुम यौमल तक़ल जमआन फ़बिइज़्निल्लाहि वलियअलमल मुमिनीन वलियअलमल्लज़ीना नाफ़क़ू वक़ील लहुम तालू क़ातिलू फ़ी सबीलिल्लाहि अव इदफ़ऊ क़ालू लौ नअलमु क़ितालन लत्तबअनाकुम हुम लिल-कुफ़्रि यौमइज़िन अक़रबु मिनहुमुल ईमान यक़ूलून बिअफ़वाहिहिम मा लैस फ़ी क़ुलूबिहिम वल्लाहु आलमु बिमा यक्तुमून। अल्लज़ीना क़ालू लिइख़वानिहिम वक़ादू लौ अताऊना मा क़ुतिलू क़ुल फ़द्रऊ अन अनफ़ुसिकुमुल मौता इन कुन्तुम स्वादिक़ीन। वला तहसबन्नल्लज़ीना क़ुतिलू फ़ी सबीलिल्लाहि अम्वाता बल अह्याउन इंद रब्बिहिम युरज़क़ून फ़रहीन बिमा आताहुमुल्लाहु मिन फ़ज़लिही वयस्तबशिरून बिल्लज़ीना लम यल्हक़ू बिहिम मिन ख़ल्फ़िहिम अल्ला ख़ौफ़ुन अलैहिम वला हुम यहज़नून। यस्तबशिरून बिनिअमतिम मिनल्लाहि व फ़ज़लिन व अन्नल्लाहा ला युज़ीअु अज्रल मोमिनीन। अवलम्मा अस्वाबतकुम मुसीबतुन क़द असबतुम मिस्लहा, बस जब तुम पर
Verse 166 of chapter 3 of the Holy Quran. وَلَمَّا أَصَابَتْكُم مُّصِيبَةٌ قَدْ أَصَبْتُم مِّثْلَهَا. What, when a misfortune befalls you and you had inflicted the double of that, you say, whence is this? Where did this come from? قُلْ هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Say it is from your own selves. إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Surely Allah has power over all things. That is, Allah could have saved you from your the problems that you endured if He wanted to. وَمَا أَصَابَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْتَقَى الْجَمْعَانِ فَبِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. And that the problem which befell you on the day when the two parties met, فَبِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ, then it was from the command of Allah, in the sense that He permitted it to happen. If He wanted to, He could have stopped it. وَلِيَعْلَمَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And one of the purposes was to distinguish the believers, وَلِيَعْلَمَ الَّذِينَ نَافَقُوا, that He might distinguish the hypocrites. وَقِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالَوْا. Huzur is going back to لِيَعْلَمَ الَّذِينَ نَافَقُوا, that now Allah mentions the indications of the recognizing marks of hypocrites, so that people recognize it, and then Allah did not leave it to the the judgment of people, that the people may not think about companions. That such and such may be a hypocrite. Allah gave the distinguishing mark so that people can't allege hypocrisy against any innocent person. وَقِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالَوْا قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَوِ ادْفَعُوا, and it was said to them, come ye, fight in the cause of Allah and repel the attack of the enemy. قَالُوا لَوْ نَعْلَمُ قِتَالًا لَاتَّبَعْنَاكُمْ. They say, if we knew how to fight, we would surely follow you. Huzur saying that return towards this. Some people present 2 or 3 translations of this. Ordinarily, commentators incline towards the translation that if we had known that there was going to be a fight, then we would definitely have taken part. But they thought that there was not going to be a battle at all, and a allegation of the hypocrisy is mentioned, is referred to here, which is found in some traditions. This is why commentators have given preference to this translation. So they were trying to spread this everywhere, that the people who were coming from Mecca, they were their relatives, and we are going to treat them kindly, and this is therefore there's going to be no fight. This is a strange thing, and there doesn't seem to be any logic in this. The people coming from Mecca, who numbered 3,000, and the people who were going from here were 1,000, of which 300 came back. And they returned because they think they're going to be merciful towards the 3,000 and they wouldn't treat them harshly. It should have been the other way around. Those who were coming from Mecca, despite their relationship, it was up to them. They were the powerful ones. They came from far away with evil intentions. They should have thought of their relationships, and they should have not have come at all. So Huzur is saying that this is what has been, this is the thought process behind this translation, that if we had known there was going to be a fight, we would have definitely fought. لَاتَّبَعْنَاكُمْ هُمْ لِلْكُفْرِ يَوْمَئِذٍ أَقْرَبُ مِنْهُ الْإِيمَانِ. They were that day nearer to disbelief than to belief. يَقُولُونَ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ مَا لَيْسَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. They say with their mouths what is not in their hearts. وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا يَكْتُمُونَ. And Allah knows well what they conceal. The rest of the translation, Huzur is saying that I will do at the correct occasion. But now Huzur is saying that I'm going to take up each of the verses one by one. The first 3 verses, Huzur says that he's got notes all together, with them all together. وَلَمَّا أَصَابَتْكُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَدْ أَصَبْتُمْ مِثْلَهَا. This was we were talking about previously when the Dars came to an end, and I had said that a lot of commentators' mind is drawn towards this fact that in the Battle of Badr, because 70 disbelievers were killed and 70 were imprisoned, so there's a subject of the doubling, and some commentators have raised this point, and Imam Razi included in a very good way, that in Mislaha means that you defeated them in Badr and then in Uhud as well, and you had given them you had defeated them twice over, and then with your own mistake, their defeat, you turned into your own defeat, and still you are saying that why did Allah not help us, and why were we harmed by the enemy. I was wondering about some Urdu grammar. In Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. Qul huwa min indi anfusikum. Say that the second thing, the second problem was Huzur is saying that both of the the victories were because of Allah. So they are reminded of the victories that it wasn't in your power to vanquish the enemy. So how could you doubt the promise of Allah? You had no power to defeat the enemy, and yet you were granted the ability to defeat them, and in an amazing manner you completely vanquished the enemy. But when you were hurt, it was because of your own self, and because when Allah had said that there was a precondition that if you are patient and you're righteous, then Allah will help you. And the people who were appointed on defending the valley in the Battle of Uhud, they were neither righteous and neither did they neither did they show patience. So Huzur saying the fact of the matter is that Allah could still have removed that problem from you as well, but this have occurred due to the will of Allah. So Imam Razi, as Huzur said, I presented to you before, he says that here this refers to the will of Allah, and Huzur is saying that I'm saying that this is this refers to the permission of Allah. So Allah is watching something that is happening, but Allah is letting it happen, but not because of Allah commanding it that it should happen. And this is the translation that Imam Razi is trying to present, that here Allah did not command that hit them. He knew that they are doing it. So bi'izni, he means that although Allah knew, He did not interfere in this. So what we call permission, this is what it means, that if Allah had not permitted them to continue to happen, then they could not have had the power to do so. Therefore, the word permission is not used by Imam Razi, but the way he has said knowledge, in my opinion, that is what is called, that is the same as in the knowledge of Allah, permission of Allah. Huzur is saying that if izn can mean in the knowledge of Allah, in the will of Allah, then I think it also means that the permission of Allah. So after saying this, Allah says, وَلِيَعْلَمَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And apart from this, there was another purpose, وَلِيَعْلَمَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, so that Allah recognizes the believers. So this permission being granted, the reason Allah's given the permission that is being granted, if there was no advantage in this, and it would if it only resulted in harming the believers, then Allah would not have permitted it to happen. But because there were certain advantages to be drawn from it, so this is why it was permitted to happen. So there was a big distinction major distinction between the hypocrites and the believers. And here Huzur is saying the word, the problem, a lot of commentators think that it refers to what happened at the valley, and the mistake that occurred after that. That is where the subject of the problem begins. But where the Holy Quran uses this word, it means the ordinary incidents that occur. In that, the first problem occurred when the head of the hypocrites removed 300 of his companions from the main party of the believers, and he returned home. If that is not regarded as one of the problems, then Allah would not have referred to that, would not have referred to it in the same in the discussion of the war. But as you read the rest of the verses, you will see that Allah refers to that incident as one of the problems of the battle. So to concentrate repeatedly and refer this problem to those people who were guarding the valley, it is not correct to refer to them. Several problems are being referred to, and one of those was that the hypocrites returned, and those hypocrites had returned before the incident of the valley. The incident of the valley further distinguished them, but they had already made themselves be known. So the whole incident of Uhud and the things that occurred afterwards as well, they are all to be kept in view here. So first of all, so that Allah knows the believers, and then also Allah recognizes the hypocrites. Now Zul is saying that I'm going to see if there's any further discussion required. Zul is saying that the word befell. About this, Zul is saying that let me tell you the discussion of the meaning. It means something descending from above, like rain descending from above and falling from above, and it also has the meaning of something happens suddenly, just for something to occur suddenly, which is not expected in normal circumstances. Asabatkum, asabasamu. It is also makes it mean that just as a arrow hits the target, it's called asaba. Huzur is being told that he had said, he has mentioned this before. Huzur is saying that, okay, forgive me, I'm going to go ahead. Huzur is saying that have we done discussed this word already? Asaba. Huzur is saying that I've told you about Ala kulli shay'in qadir as well, that some people have given it different meanings. All of these things, all of the things that Huzur is saying I have discussed previously. If I see anything further that commentators added, then I will present that to you. Tafsir Kabir Razi has said that the word asaba has more vast application, because he's saying that it doesn't have to do with the incident of the valley, but towards the fact that you did not accept the Holy Prophet ﷺ's that it is not right to Medina, and I have said previously is easily gets included in this. So although his command had not been rejected, but what is meant is that when a prophet who is enlightened from Allah, when he clearly presents his point of view, then to give suggestions against that opinion, this is disrespectful. If he hadn't explained what he went, and he had not repeatedly said that it is better and it is wiser for us to remain within Medina and to defend ourselves, and despite hearing this repeatedly, you said that let us fight outside Medina, and this problem would not have befallen us. So the beginning of the problem started from that kind of disobedience, which you can't call complete disobedience, but the respect with the Prophet demands that this was a disobedience. So this is called disobedience rather. Zul Singh, I've explained it previously that Imam Razi says that Izn means knowledge and not that Allah allowed the enemy to continue beating you, to continue trouncing you. And also he's saying that if Izn means the destiny, then it is a good meaning, because when the Muslims think that it's the destiny of Allah, then, or the will of Allah, then they bow their heads quietly and accept it. In the Shiite commentaries, Zul is saying that one we repeatedly present Mir Ahmad Ali, and another one we have mentioned Manhaj Sadiqeen, and Tafsir Qummi is also probably a Shiite commentary. So there is not just one commentary, but because Mir Ahmad Ali, because of his rudeness, he is more distinguished. This is why we have repeatedly mentioned him, but during this time we have also looked at other Shiite commentaries, and Manhaj Sadiqeen is one of them. And at this occasion Huzur is saying that I'm telling you something from Manhaj Sadiqeen, where it says that the temporary defeat was because the people in the valley abandoned guarding of the valley, but despite the Holy Prophet ﷺ's direct command, people abandoned it, and this is why there was a problem. And also Allah, the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that we should stay within Medina and fight, but the companions did not listen to him, and Allah punished them. Huzur is saying that both of these things he have written, and none of these things are objectionable. But right, the third disobedience, they say that on the day of Uhud, the companions did not listen to the Holy Prophet ﷺ's command with regard to the prisoners. Huzur is saying that there is no need for him to mention this. This was wrong. Two things can be discussed about the Battle of Uhud. One was that abandoning the valley, and the other was that in the beginning, after knowing the inclination of the Holy Prophet ﷺ to insist upon their own opinions. These two things are acceptable. You can say that they are meant, but now he has saying something which is very far-fetched. He's saying that they're the same companions who always disobeying. So, this style is disobedience. So they're saying that in the Battle of Badr, when the ransom was accepted for prisoners, because they did so, they were punished, and they said that Allah wanted them to kill the prisoners, whereas the Holy Prophet ﷺ wasn't aware of this command of Allah, In fact, the Holy Prophet ﷺ spoke to Abbas and said that I will not let you go without a ransom either. And he said that I only have this. Then the Holy Prophet ﷺ knew that Faraj or someone um, uh, had some of Abbas's money in Mecca, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that you said, Abbas, you said you have no money, and what was that you kept in Mecca with that lady? So this is exactly what happened. So several prisoners were permitted to go after that ransom was paid. It was quite a large sum of ransom. So they were saying when they attack, they don't understand where their attack is going to end, and it includes those Ahl Bayt who are later on going to be a great victories for Islam. So just in order to criticize the believers, the companions, they criticize everyone, their own people as well. So he's saying that because of taking ransom for 70 believers, therefore they lost 70 people in Uhud. So we were saying, what a far-fetched thing this is, that Allah kept this in Allah's mind, and then they had to repay that loss. And then why did Allah give them the victory for no reason? Did Allah forget that these people are disobedient? So why did Allah grant them the victory? And if that victory had not happened, if this incident had not occurred, it was a permanent victory, and there would be no question of the enemy returning. That is at the Battle of Uhud. Therefore, Minhaj al-Sadiqeen writer says, as Allama Fatullah Kashani, I was reading some Persian, that izn here means the punishment and the seizing of Allah. So not only did what happened was due to the will of Allah, but Allah was trying to punish you. And in that punishment, Nauzubillah, the Holy Prophet ﷺ was also included, according to them, because his teeth were martyred and he was hurt, and all the other all the other companions also felt that pain. So they are slaughtering everyone with the same sword. And Huzur is saying only one person wasn't disobedient, and you know who that is, referring to Ali Zanhu, obviously. This is an occasion at which Mir Ahmad Ali Sahib has escaped criticism, that he hasn't said anything which is clearly disrespectful, therefore we shouldn't criticize him for no reason. Khalifa Masih Awwal Zanho has given many interesting things with respect to this verse. The first Khalifa used to shed light on certain verses by giving some examples of incidents, and a lot of times people didn't used to understand what the relationship of those incidents were with the verses and the things that he has explained. I'm going to present not everything, but some of the things that Hazrat Khalifa Masih Awwal Zanho said. He says that there are many people who have have problems in the world. They don't mind, but if they have any problem with their religious matters, they immediately complain. Huzur is saying, this is why I took this in a particular style of grammar, which is that it's got istimrar, which means something that is continuing. So this is pointing towards this human nature, that no matter how much people get hurt in worldly tasks, but in the religious matters, whenever people are hurt, then immediately they start to complain and about why they went through that problem. Then Al-Musi Awalan, who said that he used to learn from a holy man who used to go, who always used to be on a journey, and wherever he used to go, he used to go with him. And then he is then explaining an incident. He was saying, I'm going to give you a gist. A person's buffalo was stolen, and it was discovered who the people who were stealing was, and the holy man had an influence on them, so they took that holy man with him, and they went to make those people understand, and I went along with him, and they accepted, and they said, you have come, I will give you a buffalo, but not that one, a different buffalo. This is a special style of robbers, and this is still continuing in Jang. Once our buffalo was stolen, and the thieves were saying, we'll give you a different buffalo. And Zuri is saying that I told them, no, I want the same buffalo back, and eventually they gave me the same buffalo. So this is their style, which is they've always been doing. He said that you are our holy man, but we will give you a different buffalo. He said that another person studying with me, it was his own buffalo, and he said that look, this holy man can't do anything, I know what to do. And the method was that tomorrow when you come there to discuss, then you said today, and I'll say no tomorrow. You should say today, and I'll say no tomorrow. So what was the meaning of this? He said, I'll tell you what the meaning of this is. When when they asked, what are you talking about today and tomorrow? And I'll say to him that he's a Qurayshi, and he says that I'm going to do azan in your house today. And I said, no, not today. Let them reform. Let them give them a chance to reform, and tomorrow give the azan. So this is what happened. And I said today, and he said no, tomorrow. Then again I said today, and he said no, tomorrow. And they were all surprised. What are you talking about? And he said that he's Qurayshi, and he's saying that I'm going to do azan in your house today. And I said that no, listen, don't completely finish them. Let them let them off until tomorrow. And they became so scared. The son ran to the father and said, quickly give them the buffalo back. They're about to come and give azan, because it was known in that place that the Maulvi was an imam of the mosque, and he used to give the azan, and the Maulvi gave such azan that the mosque was abandoned, and all the other areas around it were also abandoned. So Huzur is saying that this is a basic human nature that's been indicated, that they don't think of their own mistake and their own stealing, and for no reason they allege misfortune towards God and God's holy people. So how could misfortune be alleged towards azan, call to prayer, but they think that it does. So this is what the Al-Musi Awalan said. Then he further says that if some holy man, if some peer or so-called holy men, if they are upset with someone and that person, something befalls that person, they say it happened because of us, and this creates a hatred and a fear. So instead of the goodness being attractive, it causes people to be afraid of them. And then about in the Anfusikum, it says that the problem occurred due to your disobedience. When Allah's command is denied, then one does suffer punishment. And they say that the Holy Quran came out of the Sayyids and the Quraysh, and at that time the situation was that from them it went into the rest of the world, and now it has just gone from their homes completely. And there are some people who have completely abandoned reading the Holy Quran. Once he said that I told a big man and said, "Why don't you read the Quran?" And he said, "Are we monkeys? Only monkeys learn. Do lions ever learn?" So these are the kind of stupid excuses they give, and they have given these excuses to escape from sticking to the Sharia. And I responded to them by saying that eagles learn, but crows don't. So and you can give any example that you like. You can give any simile. Then in the end, Khalif Awal said that my mother was extremely intelligent, and her commentary on this verse was always this, that as you sow shall you reap. So whatever result you see of your actions, then it's real. The one responsible for it is you. And if a police officer takes somebody, then you could say that it's the police officer, but the crime that is committed, the responsibility for that lies on the person himself. So this he has explained this subject in a very beautiful manner. If there's anything interesting, any further interest with Sayyid, I'll tell you. So the Muslim Azanho has said the same thing, that min indi anfusikum kum means that because of your own mistake and mischief you get punishment, and the Iznillah means that Allah permits it to happen because the laws of nature are permitted to happen. Sale has said, your consequence of obeying the orders of the Prophet and abandoning your post for the sake of plunder. This is the meaning he has taken, repeatedly saying about plunder, and instead of applying this to Badr, it is associated with, it applies to Uhud. It is associated in meaning that it has been combined. Mir Ahmad Ali Sahib, let us see what he is saying. He says that there were many half-hearted converts to Islam who began to waver after the disaster of Uhud. Their faith resembled that of those who followed Moses, who doubted and returned to infidelity at the slightest outward happening. As if facing any difficult situation, the disaster was due to their own delinquency and love of booty. All those who had joined the ranks of the Muslims were not sincere. This is the same style he has adopted to insult the companions, and eventually he's saying the same thing, that those people who were with the Holy Prophet ﷺ, they were not all good people. A vast majority of them were evil, and because of their evil deeds, this punishment befell the Muslims. Then Mir Sahib, in detail, he mentions those companions about whom Allah says that they are Muslims in name, they have nothing to do with Islam. Then he mentions the people of Bani Asad, that for their own advantages they would come forward, and when there was a command that they should come along, when the occasion of Surah Hudaybiyah happened, when they were told to go with them, they denied. They said no, they refused. After saying all of these things, he is trying to make a distinguishing mark between between the Muslims and the hypocrites. Then he goes on to say that whenever there was a risk of their lives, they left the Holy Prophet ﷺ and the other believers in the jaws of death. That was the end of the reference, sorry. So according to him, most of the companions of the Holy Prophet ﷺ were the same, that they would only stay with the Holy Prophet ﷺ when it suited them, and wherever there was a danger, then they would abandon the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and this is why he has given the example of Moses, that go you and your Lord fight, and we will stay here. And this is what Moses was told. This is a completely false allegation. The companions had left everything, and for the sake of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and the people of the Ashab al-Sufa, what about them? And he should have discussed something about them. What was the advantage due to which they stayed in the mosque? They used to fall down because of hunger, and people used to think that they had epileptic fits, and some people used to hit them with shoes, and some used to make them smell shoes, and they were only there so that not a single word of the Holy Prophet ﷺ should be said, so that and they would not know about it, about whom for the sake of whom milk was descended from Allah, and about whom it says in the Holy Quran that they give precedence to others over their own needs, no matter how pained they are themselves. And these are the people about whom they are saying these things, that they only used to come together for their own advantages. Whenever there was any danger, they used to abandon the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Where he said in the battle of Badr, where he slew 70 of the enemy, equaling the number of those who lost their lives in Uhud, and also took as many prisoners. Then he says, the purpose to plunder and destroy their enemies is sanctified by executing it in the way of the Lord. He is such an ignorant person, a foolish man. What can I do? It's the same rubbish. Plunder doesn't leave their heads at all. Imagine Huzur is saying that they went for plunder for their own defense. For the sake of plunder, those 3,000, they went to fight those 3,000 people. These 700 had left to fight such a huge army. Is there any logic in this at all? He said that at the occasion of Badr there were 315 or so, and in comparison to them there were 1,000 well-trained soldiers, and they know that the defeat was so thorough, and they don't understand how it happened. Yet the prejudice in their mind speaks out, and they say that it was a horrific defeat, but it's nothing special. These kind of things happen. So where they see Allah's hand, there they close their eyes. But when Satan shows him something, then he opens his eyes and has a look and looks at the things that the Satan puts in his heart. So they're saying that if he's saying that the purpose is plunder, and it says it's the name of Allah, then he says the sanctified by executing it in the way of the Lord and in obedience to the command of the Prophet. And then afterwards he says the miracle here meant the victory by Muhammad at Badr. Muhammad's forces consisted of no more than 319 men. As Huzur said, as I said, that the people who were with the Holy Prophet ﷺ they did not number more than 319, but the enemy's army of nearly 1,000, notwithstanding which odds he put them to flight, having killed 70 of the principal Quraysh and taken as many prisoners, with the loss of only 14 of his own men. So he's saying this is the incident towards which they are pointing. This was the first victory obtained by the Prophet, and though it may seem no very considerable action, he says that although it is shown, it is proven that it's nothing special. So he was laughing, and he's saying that it's nothing special, no big deal. Yet it was a great advantage to him, that although it wasn't anything significant, but it benefited them anyhow. Then Mr. Wari says, he says that the Holy Prophet ﷺ used to say that the things he did was done by God. So he threw the fist himself, a fistful of sand, and said that it was Allah. So Huzur is saying that what about the wind that blew from the Holy Prophet ﷺ's direction towards the enemy, which picked up a lot of the pebbles that were in the field, and they were thrown at the enemy. So this became one of the reasons for the vanquishment of the enemy. So it was Allah's fist which did the task that the Holy Prophet ﷺ's fist did, and this is what it hurts him. He says, here where it says Ahmadi translation, they think that I'm surprised, and you should check whether Wari writes this or is a mistake. Huzur is saying, I think it's perhaps a note that the person who is writing it has written it down, the person who typed it. He's saying that it's Wari's translation, Ahmadi translation. Huzur is saying, I don't know what the Ahmadi translation is. You don't need to say that here. And the eventual thing that he culminates this whole thing on is that at the occasion of Badr, the severe defeat that the enemy had to endure, because it hurts them, so they seek their revenge by saying that Muslims say that angels had come and the angels fought the battle for them. So they said that considering the number of angels called into assist the Muslims on this occasion, one would infer that the angelic hosts of Islam were not highly gifted in the art of war. So that at least the least conclusion we can draw is that the angels that come to help the Muslims, they don't really know how to fight very well, because if they knew how to fight, then not 70 but all of them would have been destroyed. Huzur is saying that this is a fault of the Muslim commentators as well, because they go on the words and they make them the metaphors too literally. In the Holy Quran says that the mention of the angels is to strengthen your hearts. وَمَن نَصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. The real help is that of Allah, and this is what you should remember. And but the commentators have forgotten this, and they have created some strange incidents, and other people have said that no, they are just stories, but because such things are found in the books of commentaries or in the books of histories, therefore the enemy is given this chance of mocking at the Muslims. If 5,000 angels, if it meant that they actually came in weaponry, and some of them were wearing white clothes, and they were riding on horses, and people were seeing them everywhere, and people didn't know who was with them. And then where he has a right to raise this objection that in such a large number, if there were 5,000 angels fighting 1,000 of the enemy, and if they were on horses, etc., then he is right to say that those angels didn't really know how to fight very well. They weren't really cognizant of warfare. So this is as a result of the literal translations made by our own commentators. Now I should return to another part of this verse where the different possibilities of translation I was saying. I said that this meant that if we knew how to fight, we would definitely have come with you to Uhud. A lot of commentators think that they said that if we had known that there will be a fight, then we would have come with you. Both of these meanings are highly objectionable. Huzur Singh, I'll tell you about the translation that I presented. I'll tell you what the objection against that was, that they knew how to fight quite well, and it was among them the Ansar who had gone with the Holy Prophet ﷺ to fight, and this was a source of shame for an Arab to confess that he can't fight. So you can't say that they could have said something like this. It doesn't make sense. So this is what is the objection against my translation, and it apparently seems to be a very forceful objection. But I'll tell you about it later. And the other commentary is other translation. Objection against that is if they knew it was a fight, that's why they left their homes. And the same is also on my translation, that if they didn't know how to fight, then did they know how halfway there, that did they realize it afterwards that they couldn't fight? So what is the answer answer to this objection? As far as I'm concerned, the first translation is correct, and it's answered in the first part of this verse, which normally people don't think about. Allah says, وَقِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالَوْا قَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. There were two things towards which they were called, and the decision was kept in their hands. Either fight, go out and fight. Here, the fight doesn't just mean fight. It meant either go out and fight outside Medina, or with foe, or stay within Medina, because fight was defensive anyway. So the aw, that is the different distinction between the two, means that we have to make a distinction between the two forms of fighting. So we're saying that the way I see it is this, that the Holy Prophet ﷺ said to them that come, let us either fight or defend, because the people of Medina had this, there was a treaty with them that if an enemy attacks Medina, then we won't ask you to go out of Medina and fight for the sake of the Muslims. So the Holy Prophet ﷺ at such occasions would always stay firm to his side of the treaty, and even if the enemy had forgotten, the Holy Prophet ﷺ would never forgot his side of the treaty. So to say to all of them that despite that treaty you should definitely go out with me and fight, this was not correct. So the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, Ta'alo, come, and if you want to be a part of the battle that is outside Medina, then come, let us go. And if you are if you want to defend only, then stay here and defend. And this is what Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul also said, and lo na'lamu qitalan. This, and which I said that it means that they fought well, and it would not be right for them to say they couldn't fight. But this, except this is noted in history that Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul said that the Medinites do not have the expertise in going outside and fighting in the fields. And our history is proven that we know very well how to fight within a city. And there is no history, in history there has not been a single occasion that when an enemy has attacked us while we were in Medina, we have always defeated them. So this was his proof. And here it was, the subject was a fight and the defense. They thought that qital meant to go outside Medina and fight, and in this regard the Ansar did not think themselves as being an expert. Even at the battle of Badr, you remember the Holy Prophet ﷺ repeatedly asked that give me, consult with me, and when the migrants used to respond to him, he did not pay attention to them, and eventually what happened was that the Holy Prophet ﷺ was saying, reminding the Ansar that they had a right to return according to the treaty, but obviously they didn't. So although they said we don't know how to fight outside, and we have thought and considered, and the decision was correct that we should have remained behind. So during the journey, they would have said that our expertise is to stay within Medina and to fight. And in response to this, Allah says that this was an excuse that represented at that time they were closer to disbelief than to belief, and they were saying what was not in their hearts. Wallahu a'lamu bima yaktumun. And Allah knows well what is concealed within their hearts, meaning that they presented this excuse, and they had an ill intent from the beginning. So they did not find out about this afterwards. So Allah has called it false and rejected it, that their intention was evil. Their intention was that they wanted to make the Muslims anxious, and they thought that there are only 1,000 of us. We are a third of the enemy, and now these 300 have also abandoned us, and this would cause an anxiety and lowering of morale. So this was in their heart, but they were saying something else from their mouths. الذين قالوا لإخوانهم وقعدوا 169 saying this verse الذين قالوا لإخوانهم وقعدوا لو أطاعونا ما قتلوا قل فادرؤوا عن أنفسكم الموت إن كنتم صادقين. Surely those people الذين قالوا لإخوانهم so saying it's not surely those people, it says that it means that Allah is saying that these are the people, that is the hypocrites are being mentioned, that these are the people who have, this is the distinguishing marks of the hypocrites. They said to their brethren, people say that this meant the Ansar, but the devoted Ansar, they could not have said it too. So it's probably better to say brethren, or those people who were similar to them, of like mind. وَقَادُوا لَوْ أَطَاعُونَا. They said it and they sat down. What does this mean? Imam Razi writes that one commentator said the wow is the present tense, and it is regarded it to mean that they said this while they themselves sat down. So qad, when it's used at the occasion of a battle, it means those who stay in their homes, who do not go forward for battle, who stay in their homes. And their translation is waqadu. They said this in such a way that they were trying not to fight, and they stayed in their homes. Lo ta'una ma qutilu. If they had obeyed us, they would not have been killed. But it could have another meaning as well. الذين قالوا لإخوانهم وقادوا لو طاعونا. They said it to them and sat down. But if this translation is done, then they should have been there before them. They should have been present. They said it to them and sat down. So this is a possible translation, but it doesn't apply to the circumstances. Therefore, the translation towards Imam Razi has pointed is more appropriate, that they said it at the time when they were sat at home. Lo atauna ma qutilu. If they had listened to us, then they would not have been killed in the field of battle. Fadra'u an anfusukumul mauta. So why don't you remove the death from yourselves? In kuntum sadiqeen, if you are truthful. This proof of this evidence, different commentators have raised the question that they have problems understanding this. Killing is something else, and murder, death is something else. So they weren't saying that we can remove death of all kinds. They used to say that we have given you consultation about a battle. If you hadn't gone, you wouldn't have been killed. So why did Allah say قُلْ فَادْرَؤُوا عَنْ أَنفُسِكُمُ الْمَوْتَ? Killing is mentioned, and Allah is saying death, and Allah is saying remove death from yourselves. So this I was saying that I'll return towards the subject later. First, I was saying that I'll present to you what the commentators have said. Aqrab al-Mawarid says about Qada that here Qada perhaps indicates towards their foolishness. Al-Qudatu al-Himaru. Quda is also refers to a donkey who is stubborn. When a donkey sits down, then it doesn't get up. As we're saying that we have experience that it's a very headstrong species. Once it sits down, it will not get up. So it could perhaps indicate towards this that they sat down like donkeys there, and they did not want to move at all. Qad wal Qawad, it refers to such illnesses. Huzur Singh is called Ghatia or Ghantia. Huzur Singh, is it correct to call it Ghantia? Huzur Singh, that I often find it mentioned in my letters when people ask me for medicine. Huzur Singh, Ghatia is for certain. Fadra'u translates as to push something away with a lot of power, to push something with a lot of force, and it also means to spread, and also suddenly something to fall. Fadru ankumul mauta would then mean that push death away from yourself, throw it away from yourself. So remove death from yourself if you have the power to do so. Imam Razi has given it different meanings, which don't really doesn't really give it any more meanings. Imam Razi writes that he says that the vow is that for present tense. As I've mentioned this before as well. Imam Razi says that the disbeliever saying Lo ata'una ma qutilu, Allah says Qul fadra'u an anfusikumul mauta in kuntum sadiqeen. Huzur saying those people who don't understand the translation, for them I'll translate it again, that they say that when the enemy's words have been mentioned, that those people who died in the battle of Uhud, if they had listened to us and stayed home, then they would not have been killed. Imam Razi says that in response to this, why did Allah say Qul fadra'u an anfusikumul mauta? So respond to them and say that remove death from yourself if you are truthful. What does this have to do with the previous verse? He raises this question, and the response he gives is that this proof that Allah has presented cannot go ahead unless we say that we believe in destiny. So we accept if something. Sorry, when a disbeliever kills a believer, then it is due to the will of Allah. So there is no distinction between. Sorry, Huzur is going to explain this reference. Huzur is saying that Imam Razi has taken refuge in the destiny. He's saying that this is the only way to understand this, that the Holy Quran is saying that whether death is through killing or through some other way, in every instance it is due to a more certain destiny, and you cannot allay destiny, whether it's through via death or some other method, via killing or some other method. In Manhaj al-Sadiqeen, this is also mentioned that death, staying at home does not mean that people will not die. It has other, sometimes people who go to war, they are saved, and those who are at home, they die. So if for them to say that you would have been, if the people would have, they would have been saved if they had stayed home, then this would make sense. Huzur is saying, well, this is not correct. Huzur is saying what Imam Razi had said was much more logical and correct. Tafsir Ruhul Bayan, Al-Bahr al-Muhit says, Allah rejected what they said and said that killing is a form of death, and if you can remove death from yourself, then do it and show us. This doesn't seem to be correct. That why would Allah say something like this? This seems to be a very inappropriate answer. Unless you understand the wisdom behind this, you will not be able to, your heart will not be able to be consoled. They is being very clear and said that in the Battle of Uhud by rejecting what we said. These people went out and look at what happened to them. If they had listened to us, then they should have stayed home, and we were alive because we stayed at home. So they removed death from themselves. Sorry, those who went were killed. So this doesn't seem to be a very good proof. So Mashtri says, "Fadra'u an anfusikumul maut" is in a sarcastic manner, that they have been killed. Now you should worry about yourself. If you are so prevalent over destiny, then remove death from yourself. So he's saying this has got a bit of logic in it, that you are laughing at their death. You are also going to be killed, and if you are so if you can prevail over death, then you have managed to save yourself from killing, and now show that you can save yourself from dying from other methods as well. They're saying this makes sense. Tafsir Qasmi doesn't know what he's trying to say either. Hazrat Muslim Azlan has taken another meaning of death here. The Muslim Azlan whose notes, which was Qazi Akmal Sahib, has saved it, in that it says that the death of the hypocrites and their destruction is mentioned, and it is said that your death and your destruction has been set. So this doesn't just mean day-to-day dying. They used to say that the Muslims have been killed, and the response Allah gives them is that you are the ones who are going to be killed. This is a destiny that's been set about you. If you can remove it, then do. This is correct as a subject, but the actual question that arises when that question is raised, then other things will be brought forward. So the question was, why were they killed, and it's not really responded to in this. This we're saying that I think is not in this verse, but in the next verse. And we're saying that I don't know why the commentators never thought of that. Allah says, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. That you who have been killed, you cannot call those who have died in the cause of Allah as dead. بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. They are alive with their Lord. وَيُرْزَقُونَ, and they are being given provisions. So when you combine these two verses, then this proof is complete. So when the enemy says that the Muslims were killed, then those people who were killed, they are actually alive, and you are the ones who are going to die a proper death, and your death will be an eternal death in a physical as well as a spiritual manner. And their apparent death, which you regard as death, that is a life everlasting, and it is a life that is a life in more than one way. This is a real proof, and then after that no one can raise any logical objection against this, because the commentator's mind remained in the same verse, and they tried to find the answer from the same verse. So they never thought of the next verse, that the Holy Quran's statements are related to each other, and they explain each other, and they shed light from different angles on the previous verses sometimes. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Now they're saying that we are in the next verse. And think not of those who have been slain in the cause of Allah as dead. Nay, they are living in the presence of their Lord and granted gifts from Him. فَرِينَ بِمَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ, jubilant because of that which Allah has given them out of His bounty. So whatever grace and blessings of Allah they have seen descending upon them, and rejoicing for those who have not yet joined them from behind them, they expect good news from those who are behind them. Allah khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun, that they shall come, on them shall come no fear, nor shall they grieve. They rejoice. يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل وأن الله لا يضيع أجر المؤمنين. They rejoice at the favor of Allah and His bounty, and at the fact that Allah suffers not the reward of the believers to be lost. So the final result is that Allah never suffers the reward of the believers to be lost. So he's saying that now I will tell you, before a general discussion of this, so he's saying that, well, let us go into the word-for-word translation about death. Huzur is saying that it's a subject that everybody knows about, that the opposite to life is death. And then in death, apart from that, there are many other subjects, as the Muslim Azan has explained. And an example of this is given from the Holy Quran. Imam Raghib says in Akalat Tusmul Mauta that you cannot recite to the dead. Here doesn't just mean those who are lying dead in the graves. He's talking about zombies or living dead. Just as the people who are lying in the graves can't hear you, those people who are alive yet they are dead, you can't make them understand anything either. وَيَأْتِيهِ الْمَوْتُ مِنْ كُلِّ مَكَانٍ وَمَا هُوَ بِمَيِّتٍ, and that death will encompass him from all sides. They will attack him from all directions. وَمَا هُوَ بِمَيِّتٍ, and yet he will not die. So his life will always be, the death will be around them, but the death will not be granted to him, which would make him be saved from those problems. And then death in the name of, so death being likened to sleep is also well known. Who's reading some Arabic? And Huzur is saying also, Arabs say that sleep is the sister of death. And they say that sleep is a slight form of death, and that death means a heavy death. It refers to that in this and repeats the same subject. After this, there are many references which different commentators present, that the Holy Prophet ﷺ at one occasion said that the souls of the martyred are within green birds, and they drink water, etc. So it's quite a detailed statement, and those are all metaphors, and to think that they means literal sense, they have a literal meaning, is not permitted by the Holy Quran. And the Holy Quran says that we are able to raise you as in a form which you do not understand. So To say that they are as birds, this is a simile, a metaphor, just as all the blessings of paradise are metaphors. This is why some, but yet some commentators think that they are green, they're actually green birds, and they sit inside the stomachs of the green birds and they fly around, and the bird is still there. So the bird is an independent bird, but they are imprisoned within its belly. Huzur is saying someone who is extremely wise to give it, to put it in the literal form, this is wrong. The Holy Prophet ﷺ's words is the most intelligent, the wisest after the Holy Quran. What it refers to is the fact that they were birds refers to the fact that birds fly high, and the green refers to consolation and comfort. There are some very great special things about the color green, which is being noticed by experts of the world as well as those people who research upon these things. Their research indicates that if a color could have been chosen for the world, then this color should be given to it, and the human beings if human beings could have chosen this color, then he would have chosen green, because the natural focus of the eye is on green color. So when we see greenery, the comfort that we feel is because the eye does not have to struggle at all. It is in its natural state, just as when you close your eyes and you are in a relaxed state, and there is no burden on the eye. When it sees the green color, then it doesn't have any burden, and all other colors have burdened the eye. So to give it the green color means that they are in comfort and ease, and green has also got relationship with spirituality. And we often find in literature that holy men are clothed in green. Hazrat Khizr is also referred to as being clothed in green. So this means that those people, the birds, means that they are having elevated statuses, and it's as if they're flying around, and they have extreme peace. And this subject is in accordance with the verse of the Holy Quran, فَرِحِينَ بِمَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Fariha means insharaha sadruhu wa surra. If someone's bosom is enlightened and he is comforted, Huzur saying it also means to be somebody who becomes happy over some pleasure. And farihin is also used in the Holy Quran in a negative sense. Such people who are proud, if they see something small, if they are happy with something small, they start hopping about, and this is as a result of this natural sense of peace. The believers also have this sense of peace, and those people who have smaller hearts, worldly people, they also have certain consolation, but the believers are full of grace and elegance, and they don't jump about, they don't lose control. And the others, they rise up like balloons. As soon as they become lighter, they go out of control. So in this regard, there is a negative meaning in this, but only in a particular context is for those people who hop about. Then if this farah is used for them, then it means that they start jumping for joy at small joy. And when it's used by believers, then it means that they, when they get happy, their hearts are completely consoled, and they don't express it in the way that the others do. يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ بِنِعْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ.
कहते हैं युदी यो अज़ा युदी
So he's saying that I wonder why Azah has been raised here. They're saying that La yuzi'u ajruhum, perhaps with reference to this. Yastabshirun, with reference to Akrab, it's been discussed, but instead of discussing Yastabshirun, he La yuzi'u ajrul mu'minin, he gives reference over this, that is, Allah does not suffer the reward of the believers to be lost, but he was saying that now their finger has been raised, that means that 1 minute is left. Therefore they are saying that I seek permission. They are saying that we are also in a state of farah, that is the Orientalists and some of our Muslim brothers, the extreme pain that I have been suffering, we are going to have peace from that, and this is the state of farah. Inshallah tomorrow we shall talk more. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
इंशाल्लाह कल फिर बाकी गुफ्तगू करेंगे। अस्सलाम वालेकुम।